since the second half, really, how much they've really struggled. Charged with finding some stability from this guy.
Welcome back to the next episode of The Journey of a Grassroots Rugby Coach. And today, my guest is Jonny McMurtry. Jonny works in coach development and practices reflective article writing for Coaching the Coach, which is his website, and the Rugby Coach Weekly. He's also a facilitator on Outside the Locker Room. He's an international Gymnastics Australia Advanced Silver Coaching consultant and also works with building relationships. He's also worked in coach development with various sports and organisations, including Southside Swimming Squad in Rochedale in Brisbane, West Bulldogs in Brisbane, the Anglican Church Grammar School, first 15 head coach in East Brisbane. He's been involved with the national and state age group programs with rugby for about 11 years. In this episode, we talk about finding your players' motivation and what do they want to achieve, asking more questions, giving regular and reflective feedback, being able to step back before you step in, and often the coachable moment is in the players' answers. This is actually a two-part episode where next week we will talk about some research that Jonny has in the process of completing with the University of Queensland and in conjunction with the Australian Rugby Union, studying the motivations of elite players in age groups and why they play, why they leave, and some really good discussions in there. So stay tuned next week for that. I've pulled that out of this episode because it's really a separate pod and you'll get a lot out of it. But yeah, it was a great conversation with Jonny. He's been around a long time, does a lot of coaching, just not in rugby. So a lot of it is across all sports. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And I thank Jonny for his time.
Like you said before, sometimes as coaches we can get in the way. You know what I mean? We can get all this detail and all these ideas and all this analysis and whatever, and we think, you know, I mean, we know how the game should be played, but realistically the kids are the ones stepping over the paint. So we should encourage them and involve them as much as we can to show us the game that they want to play, or show us, you know, I mean, the game how it should be played. So
But he can't find it. That's a mighty shot. A mighty Mark Lester.
Well, we might make a start, Jonny.
go for it.
So just for the listeners, if you can just give me the abridged version of who you are, where you are, what's your involvement with grassroots sport, and then we'll just go from there.
Cool. Yeah, my name is Jonny McMurtry. So starting where I am currently, so based in Brisbane. Currently finishing off some research in conjunction with University of Queensland and Rugby Australia. So what I've done is looked at the motivations or personal striving. So why players play the sport. So I was fortunate enough by Rugby Australia to be invited to speak to or ask the questions to all the Super Rugby franchises. So again, I was just trying to paint a picture of why these fellas are involved in the sport. At that transition age. So again, you know, tying in with the grassroots that you're talking about, that we see a quite a large dropout, you know what I mean, in rugby union, especially at that sort of post school. As soon as they leave school, all of a sudden they've got choice and they can do what they want to do. And we see this massive decline. So staying back, my son dropped out of rugby a couple of times. So again, it really came from that and looking at, you know, I mean, why did he drop out? So yeah, I was just trying to paint that picture of understanding why they want to be involved in the sport and why they don't, so we can better tailor the product that we offer them. Before that, I've been involved in Junior Gold Cup or the Rugby Australia current age grade high performance program for about 6 or 7 years. Coached a few teams across Brisbane, University of Queensland, Logan Saints is where I cut my teeth. That's about 12, 13 years ago. It was the first team I actually coached in Australia. So yeah, it just been involved in and do enjoy. As I say, look, I've taken a step away from coaching at the moment just to try and finish off this research, all the boring writing stage, and with all the COVID scenario that's been going on, it appeared to be just the right time or somebody telling me just to knuckle down and finish off this writing. So yeah, just you know, in trying to get out there and offer some ideas and hopefully a picture for some of the coaches listening in that, you know, they might get some ideas or inspiration from the research I've gathered. So
Yeah, nice, mate. And we will touch on some of that research that you're doing as we go through.
Cool.
So you've been coaching for a while now. What got you into coaching? Or why did you start coaching?
Why I started coaching, look, again, like we were talking about just there before. So I work predominantly within the mining industry, so a lot of flying, a lot of traveling, and whatever. Did play a bit when I first came out from Ireland. Was based in Melbourne for a couple of years. Played for Melbourne Harlequins down there. Moved up to Brisbane for love. My then girlfriend, my wife. So again, it was just this. A dedication of time. So, trying to work out which is the best, trying to start a young family and whatever. So I was actually encouraged by my now wife to possibly have a look at coaching. Little unbeknownst to her that it turned in, we thought this was the lesser of the evils. And then all of a sudden I was coaching 6 days a week with, in certain performance programs and different schools and whatever. So it became the bigger commitment, sadly. But yeah, it's just fascinating, isn't it? I'm sure you're the same. Once you start coaching, it's just, it's a really bug that digs in deep, and all of a sudden you start, you build up these relationships with kids. Like we were talking there before, the Logan Saints, some of the fellas that I coached, the first team I coached, which was about, as I said, about 10, 11 years ago or something like that. I've been to a couple of their weddings. Some of them have had kids now. It's fascinating for me, these bonds that you build with these players that you coach, and just seeing them transition, and again, falling in and out of love of rugby or sport in general, and coming back to it, and even the life skills they get from it. So yeah, so it was really, it wasn't a choice that was forced, but again, it was something. That's like most coaches, whether it be injury or circumstance, you sort of fall into coaching. But when you fall in, you usually fall into love with it as well. So it's usually the common thread of it all. So yeah, so I've been involved in and out of rugby union coaching now for about 12 years, doing some other sports coaching, and doing some work with other coaches in sports like swimming or AFL and soccer as well. But yeah, rugby union is something that runs deep within the blood anyway. So deep within the blood.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said there that it was your wife that said, "Oh, you should stop playing and then take up coaching," and then they soon realised that it's a bigger commitment sometimes than being a player. With all the prep work and the preview and the review, and like you said, if you get right into it, then you're into rep programs, and I know sometimes there during the year I'm out like four nights a week and 2 days on the weekend. So
that's it. That's before you talk about all the video analysis and the text messaging on WhatsApp groups and things like that. All of a sudden it takes up a lot of time, and you're looking at your phone when you're looking at anything else. So
and I keep reminding her, you're the one that wanted me to stop playing and start coaching. So this is what you got to put up with. So
this is meant to be the lesser of the evils. That's it.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So just thinking back over your coaching journey, have you had any heartbreaks or disappointments? Because we all have them as coaches, and I think when we start out on that coaching journey that we go on, is we have those heartbreaks early, and it nearly ruins us. But if we have them 5 or 6 years down the track, you go, you know what, the next thing's over there, or what did I take? We've all had those heartbreaks that we can look back now and go, yeah, but it's a game of footy.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's a great question. Probably the two that stand out for me, and I do bring them up every now and again, is and they were quite a distance away from each other as well, but a very similar thread. It's there was a particular game again with Logan. With this young group of players, and I just felt I let them down. They got overawed by a couple of players that were playing, and got pipped by a couple of points. And again, I just left that game thinking, what could I have done more as a coach? How could I have helped almost shift their mindset? Again, they got overawed by what was going on, or distracted by the players that they were playing against, as opposed to, just focusing on, their game and what they had to concentrate on. And then probably about 5 or 6 years later, this time was sadly in a grand final. So it just slipped away. I coached at UQ, and we're against Sunnybank, and we were down, I think, by 3 points with a couple of minutes to go, and we lost the hooker. So we had a line out, sadly, just to push us, deep into their territory to possibly go and win the game. And again, I hadn't prepared for it. So I just felt, a bit of an ache and a bit of a disappointment in myself that I hadn't allowed for, hadn't properly prepared for the circumstances and scenarios that could have happened. So And I guess looking back on it now, as you said, the further I get away from it, the more I put myself into those situations and scenarios, and you know, I mean, and I make allowances for that when I do, you know, I mean, speak to coaches and do a bit of coaching myself. It's like, well, what could happen, and even get players involved and ask for their feedback and ideas of, you know, I mean, what's the worst case scenario here? What can we prepare for? You know, I mean, even if it's mini tournaments or 7 tournaments, you are going to get these injuries or things that happen and whatever. Yeah, in comparison to a longer 15 season, you know, I mean, as a direct example. But yeah, I guess those two stand out for me because I just felt as a coach possibly a bit naive, but I guess as you know, I mean, sort of tiptoed around there before, that comes with time and it comes with reflection on it. And again, that's the beauty about coaching is it's a cyclical. We do, you know, I mean, we go through a season, you know, I mean, whether it be 6-12 months of the year, something like that, and then we get to start it all again. So it is a learning process. It is, you know, I mean, you're lucky enough to get, you know, if you are lucky enough to keep coming back to it, hopefully you can drag in these ideas and these reflections of, you know, I mean, what you did do. And again, I look at myself as a coach from when I started to now. And again, I'm sure like everyone, you know, I mean, yourself and everyone listening, you almost cringe at some of the stuff that you used to do. And, you know, I mean, what you used to put some of these players through and things like that. And how it, you know, I mean, again, it just didn't relate to the game or didn't relate to what, you know, I mean, what we wanted that final product to look like. It was more, you found something, you tried to bolt it onto your players or your system or what you were trying to educate the players to do. And it just, it lacked this perspective and it lacked the player interaction and what. So it's, yeah, it's just the distance and the journey. And again, yeah, for what you're asking and what you're talking about, you know, I guess it's always these, you are going to have disappointments. You are going to have these, as you said, you know, I mean, these, you know, poor moments or moments where you're disappointed in yourself. But I guess it's exactly that. It's part of a coach's journey, and it's a part of, you know, I mean, adjusting, you know, I mean, tightening something, loosening something, having these conversations and just adjusting your practices and being aware of what the players want who are standing in front of you. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point about the heartache and the reflecting on it, because I've found most of the teams I've coached, unless it's sort of at that, you know, that first grade type level, by the time you've sat in the change rooms and stewed on it for 40 minutes or something, you come out, they're over it.
Yeah.
And if it's a senior team, they're probably 6 beers in at the bar and you're still going, oh, what if I'd have done this? I've got to do it. And they just go, mate, let's move on. Like,
yeah, it's done. Yep.
But you beat your, I think as coaches, we beat ourselves up too much.
Oh, absolutely. We think, for exactly what you said, we think about what we could have done or what we should have done and whatever. But realistically, you're playing. It's like rugby, especially. It's a dynamic team sport. You know, I mean, there's so much variables that you can't control. And again, it's good to have groups of players like you're talking about that just go, let it go, let's move on. You know what I mean? So let's actually focus on, you know, I mean, that's great to have a group of players, as you said. Let's actually row the boat in the direction we want to go, as opposed to throwing up the anchor and, you know, I mean, having a look around at what we could see or could have changed or something like that. It's a great perspective to have. So
yeah, we beat ourselves up on it. So I want to flip that around, mate. What's some of the greatest moments you've had as a coach?
Probably some of the greatest moments I've had is being in with actually age grades. So again, what you're talking about there, the younger grades and whatever, the more, and again, this is probably later in it when we get into some representative teams or tournaments and whatever, actually just some of the ideas and feedback that you get from particularly younger players, like we're talking 16, 17-year-olds, when you actually involve them in for what you're talking about, you involve them in the coaching process, or all right, well, you know, I mean, how do we want to play? What do we want to look like? You know, how then, and trying to relate that into, you know, almost like a practice design. The volume of input and volume of enthusiasm that you can get, and I have gotten certain examples, is massive. You know what I mean? It's just, as you said, it almost making them, as you said, getting them to buddy up with you in this part of this reflective practice to try and go, okay, well, what did go wrong? How can we prevent that in the future? What do we actually want to try and achieve? So then you can adjust and make the practice environment more reflective and more relatable for what they want and how you know, I mean, they want the game to be played. Then all of a sudden, again, you're not encouraging people to come with you. You know, I mean, you're trying to keep up with them. The enthusiasm, that's what I mean. For what you said before, at the end of the day, kids and, you know, I mean, all players really of all ages, they just want to play. At the end of the day, you know, I mean, rugby is still predominantly a game. You know, I mean, a lot of people play it for, you know, the masses, the majority percentage play this for fun, for enjoyment, for camaraderie, for, you know, I mean, that sense of, you know, I mean, relatedness to others. So, you know, we really need as coaches to tap into that. And I've been fortunate enough to do that with some like age grade squads and development squads in some schools recently. So yeah, that's probably been the highlight, is, as you said, just, you know, I mean, having these discussions with, you know, I mean, kids and seeing their enthusiasm for the game that's still there. So again, like you said, as before, sometimes as coaches we can get in the way. You know what I mean? We can get all this detail and all these ideas and all this analysis and whatever, and we think, you know, I mean, we know how the game should be played, but realistically the kids are the ones stepping over the paint. So we should encourage them and involve them as much as we can to show us the game that they want to play, or show us, you know, I mean, the game how it should be played. So yeah, that'll be, you know, I mean, the age grade coaching for me is still like, I love coaching that Colts age grade. And that under 20, I mean, they've stepped out of school and all of a sudden, you know, they have, that's why I have this interest in this research around that transition age, just to try and, you know, I mean, keep that enthusiasm with them before it's almost drilled out of them. So yeah, that's just working with those age group players would be my real highlight, and what keeps me interested and keeps me going on. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the Colts age group there. I've coached Colts before, and very rewarding, but hard work as well.
Oh,
you know, because like you said, they've finished school. Some of them got jobs, they've got cars, they got all this other stuff going on, and it's just trying to get that balance. And yeah, but it can be quite rewarding, but it can be quite challenging as well.
I think for what you're saying, it's rewarding when it works, as you said, because there's all those, well, not distractions, but there's all these different things, as you said, you step into, and don't get me wrong, especially around Brisbane, you know, I mean, the school first 15, it's such a massive job, and I've worked with a few first 15 coaches around Brisbane this season, and it's such a massive job, and there's high expectations and whatever, but they're in their own little fishbowl, you know what I mean? You can get a large volume of contact time, and there is a heavy focus on for them. As you said, they step into Colts and they step into club rugby, and all of a sudden they have this choice. They don't have to be there. You know what I mean? So it can be immensely rewarding, like you said, if you can create this, if you can get the balance of environment and performance focus and camaraderie just right, and get that fine balance where they can turn up and push themselves that little bit, but then have the, you know, a few beers afterwards and make a few friendships and whatever, that, you know, it can be extremely rewarding on a completely different sort of level or aspect compared to, you know, I mean, the high performance or the performance programs or first 15 programs as an example. But yeah, so that's for me, that's for what you tapped into, that's really the reason why I love coaching that Colts group, because that's real coaching for me, to you know, I mean, to really engage these fellas. Yes, you know, you can do all the technical tactical stuff, but to really engage in them where they want to play and want to be involved, that's coaching. That's hard work. It's hard work as well, as you said. It's really hard work. So.
Yeah, but then you look back at the end of the season and you actually look at what you've achieved rather than the negatives, and it's usually more positive than negative at that age group.
Absolutely,
which is fantastic. Like you said, then hopefully they push on and they play grade, and you know that they stay involved in the game. So
that's it.
What's some of the lessons that you've learned along your coaching experiences that you can share with when I say junior coach, I mean new coaches. Because we've all been that person who might have been the slowest guy to step back, and you got the balls, and you've been out there and you just go, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? I've stuffed that up, and we've all been there. And most of us that continue coaching have learned from it. The guys that drop away sort of tend not to. They just go, "Oh, this is not for me," and they wander off. So, but what's some of the lessons that you've learned over your time that you could pass on to new coaches, and even if you want to go into some of that research stuff that you've been doing?
Yeah, I can do. Like, great question, and because again, that there's not a lot of the discussion for this out there as well. Probably one of the best things that you said there. Like, for me, one of the biggest lessons and something that's not done enough, possibly across all ages of coaching, is we don't ask enough questions. You know, I mean, we there's a lot of coaches out there who, you know, I'm tiptoeing around it, who think the players pay the fees to listen to them talk. And again, coming back to what we talked about there before, is like, they want to play. You know what I mean? Like players sign up for age grade rugby, senior rugby. They want to play. You know what I mean? They want to be part of something. They want to play a sport that they love and enjoy. And through us talking to them or even dictating to them, we're taking an element of that away. So again, I just feel there's not enough questions asked out there as coaches. You know what I mean? Ask the players. I don't have that, what you touched on there before. Have that humility. Have you know what I mean? Be honest with yourself and be honest with your players. Oh, geez, I thought this was working out. I've stuffed up. What can we do differently? You know what I mean? This is what I want to try and do. How can we adjust it? You know, help me out here. You know what I mean? Because then all of a sudden players that sort of rolls into them. Players won't be afraid to try things, make mistakes. They'll be able to pitch in, offer a bit of feedback, and you know. And when you do talk to them about in future, well, how was the session tonight? How do we play at the weekend? You know, I mean, you've shown that openness, that humility, that honesty, that you know, and you'll get that reflective feedback that you're looking for. So yeah, probably the big thing would be asking questions, and something you touched on there before, and I've stolen it from the NRL development coaches who are part of our UQ research group. One of their mottos is step back before you step in. Again, as coaches, we're too keen almost to interject and you know, I mean, criticize or not even necessarily criticize, but just offer, you know, I mean, our perceived value by again almost talking too much. Like if we can encourage the, you know, I mean, the player feedback or allow the fellas to recognize when they make mistakes and let them self-adjust. Again, they're the ones stepping over the paint. So if they can self-reflect, self-adjust, or even ask a friend for, you know, I mean, or a co-player, whatever it might be, to help them out or what they're doing wrong, whatever, then that's you know, I mean, there's the beauty in that. Then that will let it sort of organically or inherently grow and develop, you know, I mean, within the team. And then us as coaches, we're, you know, I mean, we're working on, to call it, you know, I mean, setting the environment or creating a culture. You know, we can focus on the bigger picture, whereas and let the fellas drive the smaller cogs, if that makes sense. So yeah, but for me, and I said across, and again, it's not. I hope I'm not coming across as too critical for rugby coaches. It's common in a lot of sports. You know what I mean? I do a bit of work in swimming and gymnastics as an example as well. There's this tendency to be over technical and over prescribed. So, but again, if we ask more questions, we'll understand. You know, I mean, number one, what the players are there for, what they, you know, I mean, what they see as value and what they see as fun or why they're involved in it. Again, you might have this gun, you know, I mean, first grade player who again has more stuff going off the pitch or you know, I mean, is only doing it for the next couple of years. And then it might be a second grade player or, you know, I mean, a C team player who's the one who needs that support, and he'll ultimately become your high performance player. So it's again, asking these questions, understand the players who are in front of you. And yeah, for what you're talking about before, that's hopefully what my research, you know, I mean, tried to do. It just tried to wipe the eye and say, well, look, if you better understand your players, then you can, you know, target and tailor both your overall environment plus, you know, your individual interactions as well. So yeah, that'll be my big thing, is just trying to ask more questions and wait for the answers, you know what I mean, and adjust and again reflect on based on the answers you get. So
yeah, and I think that's something that as young coaches that you struggle with is you either don't ask enough questions, or I know you said about asking more questions, but you ask irrelevant, like you just ask a question for the sake of, I've got to stop the drill, I've got to say something, rather than just, like you said, take that step back, let it run, let them drop the ball. What's their reaction to that? What's their reaction to this? Blah, 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 blah. So we either don't ask enough, or we just ramble, and don't. One thing that I struggled with for a long time was giving them the opportunity to give me the answer, or an answer, because I might say to you, Johnny, when we ran that play, why did you kick it out there to the blindside winger? And you might turn around and go, well, I noticed that the defender was limping, or we had an overlap there that wasn't supposed to be there, but that was the best option. And you just go, yeah, you're absolutely right. Or no, that's not right, but at least I've got you thinking about why you made that choice. And it gives you that, you know, they may go, well, I did this, or because of this, or, you know, they may have seen something that you didn't see, or they might
Absolutely.
not have understood what you wanted them to do.
Yeah, that's it. The coachable moment's not in the question. The coachable moment's in their answer. At the end of the day, from their answer, then exactly what you said. Oh, well, they've seen this that I haven't seen, or oh, they've seen something, but I mean, it's oh well, actually, we could do I mean X, Y, Z, and then all of a sudden you can go, well, let's try this or that, and again, so then you adjust your practice based on the answers that they offer, based on what they see. So you're 100% right. I mean, that's where the problem is. And again, and it comes with experience, it comes with age, it comes with, yeah, as you said, as young coaches or novice coaches, to call it that. Yeah, as you said, we feel we ask questions, and we almost ask close-ended questions as well. It's I mean, we're asking questions to almost to pump our tires as opposed to get an honest feedback or get it's something from the players that we actually want to see. But you're dead right. I mean, realistically, the coachable moments and the answers, it's then that's when we start, I mean, should kick into gear, and that's when we can offer insights, or that's when we can again self-reflect on our practice. Oh, right, oh, you've seen this, well, maybe I'll adjust. I mean, adjust the game that we're playing, or adjust our practice based on I mean, what you've seen and what you say. So yeah,
and it also gives you that opportunity if you can just go, okay, they're not understanding what I want them to do. So then you can go, okay, guys, that's on me. Sorry. This is what, then we can go back to that. This is what we want to achieve. How are we going to do that?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, because I think that's where we expect them to understand straight away what we want them to do.
Oh, yeah, that's it. And again, understanding is like, just because we talk doesn't mean they understand. It's, as you said, then asking those questions and gathering that feedback. And again, that's, I mean, the coachable moments are almost filling those blanks. If they get 95% of it, then I mean, the next session, we've got to make sure we try and cover the next 1, 2, 3, or until we get to 100%. So yeah, that's perfect, as you say.
And delving into their answers as well. Because I find my boys I've had for a little while now don't do it as much now, but it was always, what can we do better in that drill? Oh, comms.
Yeah.
Okay, what comms are you talking about? Just talking. No. And then start drilling and just going, yes, comms is the answer, but it's not the whole. Like, why is our comms not working? Why is this not working? And then also, so a lot of my boys now, they don't even go to comms. They go, because I didn't translate the message properly to this person, or so they're actually then starting to think of that answer's not good enough. So yeah, it gives you that opportunity as well, just to make them think as well, because they'll get lazy, and if they say comms, they're moving on. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So no, that's really good, mate. So feedback to players. There's all different ways to give feedback, and again, some people are more comfortable doing it different ways, and different players are comfortable getting feedback in different ways. What are your thoughts or your methods around giving players feedback?
That's a great question.
Good or bad?
Yeah.
The good feedback's always easy to give them.
Yes.
The bad feedback, sometimes it's probably the worst part of coaching.
Yeah. Oh, look, and I guess, as you said, for bad, like for difficult feedback or hard conversations, they're difficult to have no matter I mean, where you are in your coaching journey, to call it that. So I guess the most important thing, and I say to coaches that I work with, offering feedback, it has to be done regularly. I mean, it can't be sporadic. It can't be, as you said, it can't be I mean, ad hoc or anything like that. It can't be after a mistake or things like that. I mean, you have to offer both, as you said, regular, I mean, good and bad feedback, or not even necessarily bad feedback, but, I mean, somewhere, if players need to tighten up in certain areas, then you need to acknowledge when they have tightened up in those certain areas as well. So the most important thing for me with feedback is it has to be done face to face. I don't like, emails or face to face as much as we can. But, I mean, I understand a lot of coaches are doing Zoom or Teams feedback at the moment as well, which I think is a great idea. And I mean, utilizing the resources and the sometimes limited travel or whatever it is we might have, but it has to be regular. I mean, it has to be, like, realistically, you should be catching up with, depending on the size of your squad, you should be having a chat with pretty much all your players once a week, if not once a fortnight. And again, getting them involved in it as well. So as you said, I love, I mean, I'm sure a lot of coaches have heard about it. So how do we rate today's session? Like, I'll come back, maybe it's a 5 or a 6. Okay, well, why wasn't it a 4? You know what I mean? So all of a sudden they're thinking of, oh, okay, well, it wasn't a 4 because I did this well, this well, this well. Okay, well, what can we do next time to make it a 7, as an example? So again, you're pushing them, you're reminding them of things that they did do well, but at the same time, you're not really critiquing them. You're almost pushing them or making them strive to improve themselves. They're aware of what they need to work on and how they can improve it. So again, it becomes less of a shock then as well. So again, the more regular feedback, you talk about the areas you need to improve on, you still haven't done it or still need to improve on it. Again, the more regular it can be done, the more involvement they have in it, the more, again, questions you can ask or reasons why. And again, they might see themselves as an 8, you might see them as a 4. So all of a sudden it's trying to find those mesh moments. Okay, well, you think you're an 8, but you're actually doing, I mean, this or whatever. So yeah, there's no real, again, it's understanding your players and understanding who they are, what's important to them, then makes that feedback a bit easier as well. So again, it is a lot of legwork. It is hard work. I appreciate with coaches, but again, for these difficult conversations, as we call it, I mean, the more you can understand your players and the more you can understand what's important for them, then the easier these difficult conversations can be. But yeah, no real tricks or tips to feedback. And as I say, it doesn't get any easier with the longer you coach. It's just, yeah, the more, for me, the more regular you can do it, just the easier it will be throughout the season. So
yeah, and I think that's, like you said, it doesn't get any easier the longer you coach. I think Dave Rennie said it, and I've heard a few other coaches say it, like, the players don't care what you know until they know how much you care.
Correct, yeah.
And I think I'd like to think most of my players know that even the bad feedback, it's coming from a good spot. It's to make, like, they might hear blah, 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 and then they shut down because you've told them they're dropped or whatever. But then when they actually come back, they might come, and I've had players come to me like a day later, go, can you just go over what we spoke? Because and they've shut off.
Yeah.
Because that's what most of us do when we get that, But I think if they know it's coming from a good spot and it's done because I'm trying to make you a better player or a better person, or if you want to play 8, you need to be able to do this, this, and this, that, or whatever the scenario is. I still doesn't make the conversation easier. But it often makes the responses less shitty, I suppose.
Yeah, less abrasive.
Yeah,
no, 100%. Yeah, I know what you're saying. So, and again, like all the coaches talk about, like we still talk, selections or missed selections are probably the hardest conversations you have. But again, if you're offering, like you're talking about, if you're offering regular feedback, you're having, regular conversations about, what you can do, what you should have done, or what you need to work on. Selections kind of take care of themselves then. If you're having these regular conversations, and realistically there is no surprises, there is no, you can talk about you can talk to the bloke who's just missed out. Well, we've talked about this, you're still in with the shot next week, but these are the areas you need to work on. There's no surprises. As you said, there's no shitty conversations, there's no real abrasiveness from the tough conversations, the missed selections, whatever, because you're constantly talking to them, you're constantly offering feedback. And again, that's where, I say that transparency and that connection, that athlete connection, then you say you can focus on those bits, you can have those more regular conversations as well, as opposed to focusing on all the other bits as well. So.
Yeah, no, it's and it is a difficult area.
For sure.
So I'd like to get your thoughts on this one.
Sure.
So coach education, which is all your accreditation stuff that you go and you sit in a room for 2 days, and most of the time you walk out and you go, I can't remember what was said, Saturday or whatever, and you got a book and you're now a level whatever coach, versus the development of coach development stuff. What are your thoughts around like the differences between them? Because for me, and I'll caveat this with, it has got better over the last couple of years.
Agreed.
But we've always had coach education, but not necessarily coach development. But it is getting better.
Yeah, that's a great point. As you said, there's always has been coach education. There's a lot of information out there that coaches can grab. but it's the development of, and again, that reflective practice of, okay, you've read, yeah, as you said, you spent 2 days here. Again, I think that was missing, and hopefully, again, COVID's been a good leveler of that. Where, as you said, you'd enter into a room for 2 or 3 days. I mean, up in Queensland, you go to Ballymore for a couple of days, whatever. You do some drills, you do some session plans, you hear from some coaches, and then off, as you said, off you go. You'll do an exam. You're level 1, 2, 3 coach or something like that. It's only, and again, I guess it's a bit. And again, it's that access to resources. Don't get me wrong, Rugby Australia, it's tough. You know what I mean? I've spoken to and worked with a few level 4 coaches this year, where they do have that mentorship, and again, they're writing papers. There's, you know, I mean, they're working on the reflective practice, and, you know, gathering ideas from other coaches and have chats to the other coaches. That's for me. And look, hopefully the volume of, you know, podcasts and things like you're doing now, all of a sudden, I wish, and really that's why I started my blog and the website, whatever, because when I started coaching, I just wish there was more ideas of, you know, I mean, and even like down to Facebook groups and WhatsApp chat groups and whatever. I wish there was as much, you know, I mean, small snippets and digital, you know, I mean, ideas and videos and whatever shared around when I started coaching, because as you said, you go to these coach education seminars or weekends, and, you know, I mean, whether it's an evening or whether it's over a couple of days, and as you said, you grab, you know, there's almost, it's this bombardment of information, and you're trying to grab bits of it. You know, I mean, again, it almost feels like being back at school. You're taking some notes and trying to grab the good bits out of it. Whereas, as I say, if you had, you know, I mean, even if it's a more experienced coach or someone within your club, you know, it should be your director of rugby, but whoever it might be, again, just chewing over ideas with them, and again, just having these honest conversations. Well, this is what I did, this is why it worked, this is why it didn't work. You can do what you want to do. And again, it's encouraging coaches, coming back to what we said at the start, it's encouraging coaches to have this humility to go, yeah, I'm going to try something, I'm going to roll the dice here, we want to try and work on this, we're going to, you know, I mean, play this game or do this exercise. If it falls flat in its face, you know what? Well, we've given it a punt. You know what I mean? And getting the players again involved, like, because again, realistically, we're selling the product. We're pushing the players or encouraging the players to be involved in these programs or training sessions that we design and create and whatever. So I guess, you know, I mean, we're grabbing this coach education, but it might not be relevant for them. So it's, as you said, it's this reflective practice and ideas of being more aware of who's in front of you. So, but yeah, 100% for what you're saying is that that's a great point of coach development. There's probably not a lot of coach development. It is getting better within rugby union at the moment. And again, Rugby Australia is doing a decent job of putting up, like if you go on the learning site, there's a few more videos and a few more free personal development workshops that you can do and whatever, which offer ideas. And I know in particular, you know, because some of the blokes from University of Queensland developed some of them, so there is some good stuff out there. But again, yeah, it's how do we encourage, as you said, how do we encourage coaches to have these almost communities of practice and chat to other coaches? We're such, and it has broken down slightly, but you go back 2 years ago and coaches wouldn't talk to coaches for fear of losing the magic beans. You know what I mean? That's it's just, you know, what if I share my ideas with, you know, with Bully or something like that, then he might turn around, we'll play him in a couple of weeks and he'll beat me with it or something like that. Whereas you know, Eddie Jones said it best. He said, you can come to my sessions, we can talk about it, you can tell, you know, I'll tell you what I'm doing, because by the time you copied it, I've moved on. And again, that's that idea of just constantly adapting, constantly reflecting. You know, I mean, you'll have a different squad. Again, it's a beautiful game for it, because your squad will be different from, you know, I mean, next year from last year. So you've got to adjust. You've got to adjust on how you play, how you practice, how you learn, how you develop these players, particularly in the age grade stuff. But yeah, just that's a great idea for. We should be focusing on the development coaches as opposed to solely that coach education. It's a great point.
And I think the development side for me is because the game itself, if you strip it back, hasn't changed. That's been tweaked, but it's still the game, you know, from what it was years ago. And a lot of the stuff we still coach is still exactly the same, but we coach it differently. So our coach education is, this is what we want you to coach: catch, pass, ruck, maul, set piece. Here's the law. Here's this. But the development side is, how do I now go and coach that?
Yeah.
And yeah, I know Eddie Jones did it, and I think it was Graham Henry when he coached the Auckland Blues. I spoke to him, a guy I know, and he said in New Zealand, I don't know whether they still do it, but back when Graham Henry was with the Blues, the coach that won the Super title or whatever it was called then had to gave a presentation to the rest of the franchises, and he went, "This is my playbook," and went through the whole lot. And these coaches are going, "What are you doing, mate?" And he's going, "That was this year's playbook. It's not next." And that's what he said. I'm forcing myself to evolve.
Yeah, of course.
And you just go, oh. And first of all, I thought, geez, that's a ballsy move. And then you think, but then if you're at that level, you'd like to be thinking that you're constantly evolving anyway. So.
Well, that's when you look at it was Leinster, and I think it was this time last year. It was Leinster and the Crusaders. You know what I mean? When they were locked down, there was no rugby and whatever. They shared. They go, all right, well, here's 3 or 4 videos of our game, and they sent Leinster sent, all right, this is how we'd pick you apart, and Crusaders said, this is how we'd pick you apart. That's a brilliant idea. Like again, I think that was underreported and underutilized, because again, there should have been so much of that. For exactly what you said. At the end of the day. It just, if nothing else, you know, I mean, these top squads, like we're talking, you know, I mean, Leinster Premier in the Northern Hemisphere, Crusaders Premier in the Southern Hemisphere, and all they're interested in is how do we sharpen our sword, even just that slightly bit more. You know what I mean? Oh, shit, they've seen something that we didn't see.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? We can tell when you're going to do a crossfield kick because of this or something like that. Again, so just as you said, slight tweaks and constantly evolving their game, or constantly evolving even how they see the game. Just fascinating stuff. Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and I heard that on a podcast. It was with Razor Robertson, and he said the beauty of that was that we knew we were never ever going to have to play each other.
Yeah.
So it was like like they said, we do this because we've noticed your 10 does this, and he said knowing that we would never ever have to play each other, it was just open slather, and like they said, they just got so much. And I just thought, oh. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's just, and again with it, for what you said before, you're dead right. At the end of the day, the game has been the game. The rules of the game are what they are. We have to pass the ball backwards. We've got boundary lines and so on and so forth. Like at the end of the day, it's essentially you're giving a kid here's a piece of paper, you know what I mean, or here's an outline of the drawing. We can overprescribe. We can make it a color for numbers, or we can just give them a handful of crayons and tell them to go for your life. Again, that's the coaching moments. That's I mean, if we tell them that this has to be a certain color or this, at the end of the day, they might create something, you know what I mean, that's cool and that you'd never seen before. Or if we overprescribe, as you said, the game's the game. You know what I mean, if you knock a ball on, there's going to be a scrum. If the line-out's not thrown straight, it's going to be, there is rules and boundaries around the game. Why do we create more boundaries as coaches by overprescribing or telling these fellas how we want the game to be played? Let's stop, let's listen to them, let's see what they come up with, and then all of a sudden, as you said, we'll get these good ideas. It doesn't necessarily need to be done by Leinster or, you know what I mean, or the Crusaders. We can get these good ideas. The players, no matter what the age, can see these things that, you know what I mean, the top players are seeing as well. So,
giving players ownership around some of that stuff as well is
huge,
powerful,
huge,
because it can help with, guys, this is not what we agreed. That's what we agreed on. Not what I want. This is, you guys agreed this is how we want to play.
Perfect. Yeah.
And we're now not doing it.
Yeah, it's it. That creates that a sense of, as you said, because you've got this collective picture. It's a really powerful message that you're saying. We've got this collective picture, and it creates this sense of ownership and accountability. But as you said, it's not come from the top down. It's, you know what I mean, you're surrounded in it, as you said. You know what I mean, this like you're part of this, you know what I mean? Let's row the boat together, essentially. So
and it's really interesting when you see, especially when you start doing the Junior Gold Cup stuff and that stuff, and you get these boys from Clubland into that rep program, and you'll just, you'll say to them, why? What do you mean? What did you do? Like, I want to know what made you think that, or why did you run that line, or, what was your stand? And it really takes them aback, because they're used to just being told, run that, do this, do that. And when you start giving them a little bit of autonomy around why did you make that? What? And I'm not asking you why because it's wrong. I'm asking you why because it may be right, or you know. But I want you to think about that decision that you made, and if it's wrong, would you do what decision would you if we stopped at that point? What would you do then?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'd do this. Okay, cool. Let's go play again.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of kids find that, not just kids, a lot of players find it difficult to get into that, used to that.
Oh, like, and there is this belief, you know, I mean, for we as coaches as well, like we think practice has to be perfect, you know what I mean? For exactly what you're talking about before, you speak to the Magic Academy fellas over in the UK, you know what I mean? Rusty in particular, they talk about, you know, I mean, timeouts, pauses, you know, I mean, these games ideas for exactly what you said. Well, all right, if we had to do this again, what would we do this time? All right, well, let's do it. You know what I mean? Actually recreate it and see what it looks like, whatever. It's again, sometimes as coaches, if we see a drop ball or we see, you know what I mean? And again, there's a lot of sort of noise from the sidelines, to call it that as well, that, you know, I mean, if practice looks messy, then no one's learning or developing. But again, there's so much research and there's so many, you know, I mean, so much information out there to say, well, that is, you know, I mean, again, the game is messy, particularly rugby union. The game is dynamic. You're playing against 15 other bodies who are going to make decisions and act and react and whatever. So it can never be perfect because the game's never perfect. You know what I mean? You have to make decisions, adjust and go again and whatever. So yeah. For what you're saying before, it's this idea of, all right, ask the question, what would you do next time? And then, you know, I mean, remember the coachable moment again is remember, all right, you have this chance next time. Remind them, all right, let's try these other decisions. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's really good, mate. Last question. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time to that first year of coaching? What advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
Great question. I guess coming back to just that point before, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know what I mean? Training, learning, and again, so the first team I coached was 16, 17-year-old boys and whatever. And again, I probably didn't, you know, I mean, I was stepping into this and didn't have this humility and wanted it to be. I wanted to make sure the session flowed and again, everything was nice and easy and it looked good. And yeah, essentially it looked like, you know, I mean, these session plans that we talk about, the coach education weekends, when realistically, if I had to stop and ask a few questions and got the fellas, you know, I mean, got to know these fellas. Again, some of these fellas were, you know, I mean, they were on the go from, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning and whatever. A lot of them were tired. They just wanted to get there and, you know, throw a ball around and whatever. And I was pushing. So yeah, I guess, you know, I mean, just always take that time, take a breath. You know what I mean? Start your session off. I guess always start your session off by, you know, asking your players, you know, I mean, what's going on? How are things at home? You know, just getting to know them a bit better, getting to know, so you know what your session is going to look like before you start, if that makes sense. So again, if fellas are tired, a lot of the Colts fellas, you know, I mean, some of them will be in uni, some of them will be doing apprenticeships. They'll be tired, you know what I mean? There's a lot of other stuff going on, girlfriends, whatever it might be. So if you have this picture before the session starts, then you might have a better understanding of why it is, you know, falling apart as an example. So yeah, just, I guess, you know, I mean, for what you're saying before, just take the pressure valve off a bit. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to look, you know, I mean, bulletproof essentially. Get the players involved in the learning, get the players involved in the session design, so that they both enjoy it and it's reflective. They understand, for exactly what you said before. They find these moments where they can try something, learn, you know, develop, and yeah, that'll probably be the best message for myself. It's probably still the message for myself now, to be honest with you. Let alone a few years ago now. So
yeah, I know, right? It's that. Yeah, we always try and make it perfect when you start doing that. I spoke to a coach the other day, and they were saying that they've started doing that chaos training, and for like the first 4 sessions, they just went, "Did we actually achieve anything?" Yeah. And then all of a sudden it just clicked and everything, they said you could just see it just go, dum, 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 dum. It was just like, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes, like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect.
No, far from it.
Mate, that was awesome. I've got a couple of pages worth of notes here. So
great.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy trying to get your paper together.
That's it.
And hopefully that'll, you know, give Rugby Australia some things to think about as we move forward for the next generation of players coming through.
Hopefully.
No, mate, I really appreciate your time, and
Thanks for the invite. Yeah.
I think the listeners will get a fair bit of stuff out of today's chat. So
No, it's been great. Yeah, as I say, love the conversations you've had and whatever. So yeah, really appreciate your invitation for coming on. So
no worries, mate. Again, thanks very much, Johnny.
All good.
I'll talk to you soon.
Good on you.
Righto, mate.
Cheers, Nick.
Move off their own ball. That is monstrous.
Being held at the back by the foot of Ben Norman, kept in England, marching it on. Will they get a penalty? Still there. There is the penalty.
Dominant in the scrum. Have you ever seen a tackling and clearing like that? At this set piece, this rate, they marched all the way to the try line. That was extraordinary. 30-metre scrum.